you guys get it done.
Oh, yeah. All right, here we go, everyone. It's after further review on a special Friday morning. If it's special and it's after further review and I got to go to the bullpen, there's nobody better than Jay Crawford.
The righty is loose.
Yeah, right. The righty is. Thanks for coming out.
No problem. No problem.
The Browns win 21-7. I'm Dave DeNatale.
Wait, they won?
They actually won the game.
Okay. Didn't feel like it when I woke up.
No, and it still doesn't feel like it. Obviously, what everybody's talking about, what we're talking about this morning, and we've put polls out both on Twitter and on our WKYC.com on our megaphone, Myles Garrett. And you even brought a prop to help us here.
Yeah.
As we saw at the end of the game, 8 seconds to go, Jay. The Browns are about to win and beat the Steelers. Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett are on the ground, and I know Rudolph precipitated a lot of it. I'm not excusing him of anything.
Right.
But Garrett took his helmet off, took Rudolph's helmet off, swung it at him.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely changing everything today.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, we're not talking about the Browns' first back-to-back wins of the season. We're not talking about the fact that they are suddenly in a situation where they can start thinking about the last 6 games of the season and trying to make a playoff push, particularly the way the schedule plays out. All of that is forgotten. The Baker's play, another game without a turnover, so many positives, the way the defense played.
And forced turnovers. I loved it.
And what we had heard so much coming into the game about how the Steelers are second in the league in interceptions, third in the league in sacks, and they're the opportunistic defense. Last night, the Browns were the opportunistic defense.
Yes.
They had 4 picks. I'm not sure what they finished with in terms of sacks, but they were clearly in his face the entire game. And because of one flash, all of that is undone. And what we're talking about, unfortunately, is how long Myles Garrett's going to be unavailable for the Cleveland Browns. And that's the last thing in the world we want to be talking about on a day where we have 10 days to recoup and get ready for our next game. And now we also have 10 days to watch the news cycle chew on this and gobble it up. Yeah. And we're in the news nationally for all the wrong reasons. Dino, as you know, there are impeachment hearings going on in our nation's capital, something that's happened just 4 times in our country's history. This bumped the impeachment hearings out of the top slot on the morning shows nationally. Yeah. And it's a stain. It's an embarrassment. I want to be very clear. I think that there is one person and one person only to blame for what we saw last night. And I think Myles Garrett would tell you the same thing. There were little things that happened that we can talk about here, and I think we should. But I want to preface my upcoming remarks by saying Myles Garrett is on the hook for this, nobody else. However, in all the minutia of the moving parts, why, in a 2-score game, after your quarterback, who's already missed games for concussions, has been sacked on back-to-back plays with 14 seconds to go, why aren't you protecting your quarterback from taking a 3rd straight sack and another potential hit where he's concussed and misses more games? Why aren't you taking a knee there?
I had a lot of people, ask me that Tomlin, did not take care of his guys. It was obvious that the game's over. Run the football out and just get out of there.
You see him again in 17 days.
Exactly.
Only bad things can happen in that situation. So what if he throws a Hail Mary touchdown pass? The game's over. It's the last play of the game. I don't understand. And I'm not putting blame on Tomlin. I'm just saying there are people that could have avoided, that could have done things that could have avoided it getting to this stage.
Right.
It does not exonerate what Myles Garrett did, and he alone is to blame for taking a helmet, which this is a weapon for taking a helmet off a player and swinging it at him. I've never seen anything quite that egregious on a football field. And I saw Vontaze Burfict this year lead with his helmet and laugh as he was ejected and run off the field. I was more nauseated by what I saw last night. Yeah. Maybe it's because it's my team, and I want to be proud and not ashamed of my team. But last night was a moment of embarrassment, and that embarrassment is going to continue. And here's the worst part about all of this. Myles is a wonderful human being. He is thoughtful. He is smart. He is kind. I've spoken with him away from football. He's just a terrific individual. Something happens to him when he steps on a football field. He's this season garnered the reputation of being a dirty player.
Right.
even to the point where he's felt he's had to come out and say that he's not.
Right.
But he's also said, I won't apologize for who I am, and I'm not going to change who I am on the field. And that was a mistake.
Yes.
Because he needed to be introspective, because I think he is an introspective guy.
Oh,
he needed
totally.
to look at himself when the whole league earlier this year was saying this guy's very close to going over the edge. Instead of looking at himself and asking himself, is this something I need to change? He was obstinate and defiant and said, I'm not going to change how I play. Well, he didn't, and now we're here.
Right.
And he's probably done for the season. And the real shame of this is he is a Hall of Fame caliber talent. Not Pro Bowl. I put him in, if he can sustain this for a decade, he is a gold jacket guy. This now is a stain that he won't be able to wash off.
Right.
He can go on and win a couple Super Bowls. And let's hope he does. But this will always be part of the conversation.
It's a yeah, but for the rest of his.
It is a yeah, but.
It's a yeah,
because
but.
sports fans understand that Ron Artest, although was a great player, probably better than he even gets credit for today, won championships. But when I say Ron Artest, what comes to mind?
Run into the stands in the Palace.
The malice at the Palace.
Yep.
We can't get the image of him punching a fan out of our mind.
Right.
And for many people, you can ask them 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Myles Garrett, first thing that comes to mind.
Helmet.
Many people are going to say, oh, he's the guy that swung the helmet at Mason Rudolph, who
Yeah.
will be a footnote in this story.
Not multiple multiple All-Pros, sack leader, this, that, the other. No,
Yeah.
I
and I hate that for Myles.
I do too.
Because he's better than that. Here's my hope. I hope it's a true teaching moment. And I do believe that he's contrite. I do believe that he now understands that he can't continue this kind of aggression on the football field. And I saw a lot of comments on social media, and I'm not quite sure where I stand on this. I saw a lot of people on social media say, well, if he had done that in the streets, he'd be arrested. I did see that Mason Rudolph's agent late last night tweeted
I saw that too.
he may start some sort of criminal investigation to see if this perhaps raises to the level of criminal offense. And let's face it, if I take this helmet and I walk out onto the street and I swing it and hit somebody in the head, I'm going to be charged with assault with a deadly weapon.
Yes.
I could be charged with, a myriad of crimes. I think that there are a lot of things players do on the field that if you see them done on the sidewalk would be crimes. If I got a running start and just went up to somebody and slammed them down on the sidewalk, it would be a crime. But it doesn't raise to the level of a crime on the football field because it's the heat of battle. That's what you're paid to do on a football field. You're not paid to swing a helmet, and you shouldn't be excused for doing that. I'm not saying that this raises to the level of criminal, because that is a whole new area.
Right.
Because then you open a different can of worms. And we've seen in hockey, we've seen players arrested for things they've done on the ice during fights. So it's a real dicey area. I will say this, Myles is lucky on 2 counts. He's lucky it didn't happen in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Because I think they'd be much more likely to pursue some sort of criminal charges if it had been in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, he swung the helmet and he made contact with this part of the helmet.
Right.
There's a pad here. So there's this or there's this.
Big difference.
I think he's very lucky that he hit him with this part of the helmet. Clearly, Rudolph didn't appear to have any effects from it, didn't appear to be concussed. I'm sure he'll be looked at closer today. But Myles is lucky on those 2 counts because it could have been far worse.
Rudolph was already concussed this year.
That's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
He's missed time for concussions.
Yeah.
So back to the Tomlin decision. Why are you? He'd been sacked on back-to-back plays.
Because Schobert had just gotten to
Yeah,
him.
on back-to-back plays,
yeah.
he'd been sacked. He's been concussed this year. He missed a little bit of time last night. Why are you having him drop back to pass with 14 seconds to go when he's been sacked twice? I believe it was 3rd and 29.
Something like that. Yeah.
What are you doing?
You're down 14. Just get out of there.
And honestly, if I'm Rudolph and I'm clearing my head this morning and I'm trying to put all the pieces together, if I'm not asking of my coach, Coach, why were you putting me in that position there? Why weren't we taking a knee and shaking hands?
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
I think that's something that has to be at least asked. And again, I'm only bringing up these points as things that could have happened that could have avoided getting us to where we were.
Yes.
I want to be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
I'm in no way exonerating what Myles Garrett did.
It's still Garrett. You put out a poll on Twitter at JCrawfordCLE. We also retweeted it at WKYC. What should Myles Garrett's punishment be? It's our after further review Twitter question. More than 4,000 of you have voted, and I think you had it up for less than an hour. 48% say he should be out for the season.
Yeah, and I am in that camp.
I am too.
When it immediately happened, the first thing I said was, he's done for the season. He can't play this year. If you remember the Vontaze Burfict play, and I spoke about it earlier, where he hit the Colts tight end, who was down on a knee, was done for the play. And Burfict came in and speared him with his helmet, and it was a direct helmet-to-helmet hit, clearly an egregious penalty. When he ran off the field, Burfict took his helmet off and was visibly laughing and was blowing kisses at the Colts crowd as he was leaving the field. When the commissioner and the enforcement arm of the NFL looked at that in totality, I think his reaction made the suspension worse.
Yes.
The hit was egregious enough, and it warranted a suspension. But because he ran off the field laughing and blowing kisses, I think the commissioner said, I need to be swift and harsh, and he was. 12 games, the rest of the season.
Right.
When I watched the two today back-to-back, because I wanted to compare it to the Burfict, because really it's all we have this year to compare what Myles Garrett did. And I watched the Burfict thing, and I was sickened by it, nauseated. Mostly, the hit was bad enough. I was really sickened by his reaction running off. And then I immediately rewatched the Myles Garrett thing. And to me, the Myles Garrett thing bothered me more.
Yes.
And maybe it's because I'm a Browns fan, and there's embarrassment that goes along with that. And I want my team to be classy, and I want them to win with dignity and lose with class. And last night, we did not win with dignity. We won with an asterisk and a stain. And as I watched the two plays back-to-back, the only conclusion I can draw is that was more egregious to me. Taking a helmet off of a player, and at 295 pounds or whatever Garrett is, you're swinging it and making contact to the player's head.
Right.
So when you look at it that way, my immediate reaction last night was he won't play again this year.
Yeah.
As I
see you in 2020.
But now as I watch the plays back to back, I'm wondering if Burfict got 12 for what he did. Is it possible that we see Garrett get 8 or 10 or 12 or 16? And so I'm not ruling anything out.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got a huge fine. That's coming no matter what. I wouldn't be surprised if he got 2 games, but I don't think I'd be surprised if he got a full season. And maybe the CBA and the Players Union files a grievance, and there may be a hearing, and I believe that would go to I don't know if that goes to arbitration or not. I shouldn't say because I'm not completely sure. But one way or another, I do know that there is an appeals process that the player has, and maybe it's whittled down from 6, 8, 10, 12, 16. But after watching it many times, I'm not taking anything off the table because I know this about the commissioner. The one thing he hates more than anything else is when his league leads the news cycle the night after a national showcase game for the wrong reason.
Yep.
He despises that, as he should. And he woke up this morning and saw that this was leading the national morning shows. And it's all over ESPN, it's all over the NFL Network, it's all over NBC Sports. It will be the front page of most newspapers today. And that is usually something that draws particular ire from the commissioner. Swift and harsh. My gut tells me it would be at least the rest of the season.
We're getting obviously a lot of comments here on Facebook. The argument, and I tried to address this last night on Twitter about this. People keep saying, well, but Garrett didn't start it.
Understood.
Rudolph did. I understand that too.
Yeah.
You know, all I kept saying was, you know what? I know he didn't start it. I know what Rudolph was doing in the scrum. You're up by there's 8 seconds left. You're up by 14. Walk away.
Yeah.
Think about the larger picture, because when you do that, when you take the helmet off, and when you swing it at another player, you're no longer thinking about the team. You're thinking about yourself. And unfortunately, that doesn't jive. That doesn't work.
And I get the reaction that he didn't start it because I'm a Browns fan. I want to try to exonerate where I can, but I'm trying to be as judicious and as fair as I can in my assessment of what I saw. I thought that, again, all the moving parts, I think that Tomlin should have had his quarterback take a knee. No way should Rudolph have tried to rip Garrett's helmet off. He was to blame for that.
Yes.
And he may be fined for that as well.
I would think so.
No way Myles Garrett should have ripped off Rudolph's helmet. No way should have he swung the helmet. And here's the thing, and I know that Myles didn't start it, but he finished it in such an exemplary, like in such a dramatic fashion, where we all said, "What just happened? What did I just see?"
Right.
And then when we thought we saw what him swing the helmet, but when the replay confirmed it, I almost couldn't catch my breath. I was that stunned. Because Myles, I don't know him well, but I've interviewed him, I've talked to him, I've seen him interact with people. He's a fine human being off the football field.
Right.
You just you can't justify that in any way. And I think when you say things like he didn't start it, I think that almost in some way you're trying to lessen his crime. We're not talking about any of this if not for one thing happening. So in other words, we wouldn't have ever questioned Tomlin's decision to throw 3 straight times after his quarterback had been decked twice.
Right.
We're not talking about that. We're not talking about Myles Garrett if Rudolph tries to rip off the helmet and he doesn't get it off.
Right.
But when he tries to rip off the helmet and he doesn't get it off, something was happening with Myles where he couldn't no longer control himself. And someone told me today, and I haven't seen it, someone told me today OJ was defending Myles Garrett on Twitter.
I heard that driving in, yeah.
That is an indictment, not an endorsement.
Correct.
I don't think you want OJ saying, hey, look, guys, hey, I get this. That to me is, and Myles has nothing to do with that. I'm just saying OJ should know when to weigh in and when to stay on the sidelines. And on this one, he's not qualified to weigh in.
No, and you know who else wasn't? James Harrison.
I saw that. I saw his as well.
I'm like, James,
don't go there. Please don't go there. And we haven't talked about one thing. I heard last night, because I listened to the post-game comments and the show on the radio, and I heard a lot of people were trying to say this is Freddie's fault or Freddie has no blame here.
Yeah.
I would say somewhere in the middle lies the truth.
Because I guess that's where I wanted to go with you next, because you've got lunch break in about an hour,
Yeah.
and I want to let you get ready for the show.
Right.
But even before everything was happening, you tweeted at, and I was upset about this too. It was another game where the Browns lost their discipline in many cases. Demarius Randall had gotten kicked out for a helmet-to-helmet hit. The stupid penalties.
That's what led to my first tweet. I tweeted with about 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. This may be the most undisciplined team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was after the first suspension or the first ejection on the Randall helmet-to-helmet. At that point, 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, there were 117 penalty yards against the Browns. I'm sorry. This is who we are.
Right.
This is not a statistical anomaly. We lead the league in penalties, and there's a reason we lead the league in penalties. It's been tolerated to date.
Right.
And Freddie, again last night in the post-game news conferences, reiterated the fact that he doesn't coach penalties, and he's very defensive when penalties are brought up. Guys, stop ignoring the elephant in the room. This is an issue.
Yeah.
And it's led to one of your best players humiliating your franchise. This is a problem, and it needs to be discussed and not brushed off when the media asks about the penalties.
Right.
And it has been every single game this year. It's been an issue. And 2 weeks ago, after the Denver loss, we had to release a player who was making threats on social media.
Right.
Yesterday before the game, Antonio Callaway was released because he was late to a game.
Yes.
Late to a game, and has, as we now know, failed another drug test.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is Freddie responsible for what Myles Garrett did last night? No. Here's where Freddie is responsible. Culture. Culture is set from the top, from ownership to general manager to head coach to quarterback to team leaders. But head coach is high up the hierarchy in that food chain. And the head coach is responsible for setting the culture in the locker room. And that should carry over to the field.
Yeah.
And does Freddie coach penalties? No. But this is a trademark of his team. So he has to own that, and he has to get in front of it, and he has to stop brushing those questions off from the media and being offended by the fact that I can't believe I'm being asked about penalties. Right. I don't coach penalties.
Right.
But you're not coaching your guys to not commit penalties, and that's the problem.
Did you have any problem with what Baker said to Aaron Andrews last night? I didn't either.
I did not.
I thought actually
I heard Baker taking some flack for that on social media. I want my team leader to call out any player on my team that brings embarrassment to my team. And that's what Baker did. And I know a lot of players were saying, hey, man, you're breaking the bro code. You know, players have players' backs, and I get all of that. And I thought that Baker was very measured in his comments. I think he said, look, he knows what he did was wrong, but that's unacceptable. And it is. It can't be tolerated, and it can't be excused, and it can't be brushed under the rug.
Lastly, what do you hope / maybe expect the Haslams and or John Dorsey to say about all of this when the punishment gets announced, when there's some form, do they need, I bring it up because a friend of ours, both of ours, Brian McClure, the former Bowling Green quarterback,
absolutely.
Tweeted at us.
I love Brian.
I know, Brian's awesome. And mentioned that, you know, what does the owner, what does ownership say?
Yeah.
What does the GM say about all this?
I think that's a fair point. Typically, I've been impressed with the way Jimmy and Dee have sort of taken more of a backseat role. I think they're less out in front of this franchise, which I respect.
Yeah.
I want my owner to write checks
Yes.
and to hire the right GM and
Yes.
coach. That's what I want the owners to do. And I think
Let
they're
their people do
I
their
think they're
jobs.
kind of getting that, and they're kind of feeling that, you know what, I can't be involved in hiring coaches or I can hire GM, but I shouldn't be involved in hiring the coach. You know, if I rubber stamp it, that's great. If I approve it, that's great. Do I expect Jimmy to come out and make a statement? I don't know. I don't know that I expect him to get involved in this. I certainly want to hear from John Dorsey.
Yeah.
I want to hear from John Dorsey on a myriad of issues that are both on the micro level that are related to Garrett and his actions and a little bit of a pattern of behavior here and what he's going to do to try to rein in the coach who hasn't been able to rein in the players.
Right.
So I do want to hear from John on that, but I don't know that I expect to hear from Jimmy or Dee.
Because I bring that up because, you know, one of the last times we had something like this was Bottlegate all the way back in 2001. And, you know, that was when Carmen Policy and Al Lerner went to the media, and Carmen Policy famously said, oh, yeah, those plastic bottles don't pack much of a wallop.
Right.
Which was, it was not well timed.
It
by
was,
policy.
from a national standpoint, it was gasoline on a fire.
Yes.
And that's why I say, like, you have to be very careful with what you say. There's no excusing what we saw last night, none. And I would not expect John to make any excuses for that, because there are none. The bottle thing was fan base related.
Yeah.
This is an employee.
Right.
This is an employee of the Cleveland, a high-profile employee.
Co-captain, former number one overall pick.
This wasn't like what we had in Denver. You know, that was a fringe player who wasn't a franchise face. Myles Garrett's a face of this franchise, one of the faces of this franchise. My hope for Myles is that he gets out in front of this. I know he spoke last night. I want to see Myles on camera today being contrite, being the thoughtful person that I know he is, and I want him to fall hard on his sword.
Yeah.
I need to see that on a national level today.
Yeah.
By the time 6 o'clock SportsCenter rolls around,
Right.
and by the time all of the national newscasts hit, you now have an opportunity to get in front of this news cycle and throw something new out there.
Yes.
And it needs to be Myles taking full responsibility and saying that I will willfully accept whatever punishment the league deems necessary. I also, if I'm Myles Garrett, I'm on a plane right after I do my national news conference. I'm on a plane to New York City, and I can't get to Park Avenue enough.
Yes.
I want to see the commissioner face to face. And what I want to tell the commissioner when I'm in front of him is I 100% claim responsibility for my actions. There is no one else to blame but me. I want you to know from me that this is not who I am. This was a one-time thing, and I want the opportunity to prove it, that I can be a positive influence on the NFL
Right.
and not the negative influence that I know I am today.
Right.
That must happen today. And that's all about crisis management. That's putting out fires. And the worst thing we can have is to have him say in comments, well, hey, he was pulling on the back of my helmet. Everybody saw it.
Right.
I don't want to hear any of that.
Right.
It's all true. We all saw it with our own eyes. But he's got to take responsibility.
Yep.
And I think that's what the Browns need to be thinking about in this moment.
Yeah.
They have 10 days, by the way, thankfully.
Yes.
Let's be thankful this didn't happen Sunday.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready for the Steelers in 3 days.
Oh, boy.
You know, because at least from a timing standpoint, There's time for everyone to exhale, take the rest of the week and the weekend off, but Myles Garrett needs to be doing damage control 24/7 as much as he can. Because in my gut, I don't think we're going to see him in a Browns uniform the rest of this year.
Yeah,
I don't.
We'll see in training camp next year.
I hope I'm wrong.
Right, I do too.
I hope I'm wrong, because if they're going to make a playoff push and win out, which is what they have to do, 9-7 won't do it. They'll have to be 10-6 to try to get a wild card.
Yeah.
If they can do that, I think they very much are in the wild card discussion, but I don't know if they can do it without Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
So it just seems like every time this team takes one step forward, they take 2 steps backwards. Yep. And, you know, I thought him getting punched in the face downtown here was going to lead the year in bizarre stories.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Sure enough. My friend, I appreciate it
always
very,
good,
very
Dino.
much.
Always good.
All right, lunch break with Jay Crawford. I mean, I would imagine this will dominate the majority of the show.
Yeah, well, it's certainly the first block will
Yes.
be very heavily centered on Myles Garrett and what happened. And I hate that Cleveland fans have to answer to national media and national fans this morning after beating our arch rival for the first time in 5 years.
Right. And beating the Ravens and the Steelers in
we're
the same
2-0.
season for the first time.
Ever. We've never done that
Yep.
before. And it's finally happened. And this morning, I find myself in a retreat position from friends that I have in the national media and fans nationally that are reminding me that there's nothing positive going on here. That's very disheartening to me because there is.
It's Cleveland
and
being Cleveland
again. There's a great movement going on here. We can't continually stick the broomstick in our front spokes. And because it kills our momentum and it takes the eyes off the prize. And I'm really sorry that Cleveland fans have to be dealing with this afternoon and this morning, because we should be in a state of euphoria.
Yeah.
We beat our arch rivals for the first time in 5 calendar years. And we're not talking about
it. And we're not talking about it. We didn't talk about a single element of the game. Okay, we've got plenty of coverage at WKYC.com about all of this, including Jimmy's Take. Matt Florjancic and Ben Axelrod have stories. Jay Crawford will have lunch break at noon, so just about an hour from now. I will see everybody tonight. I will actually be able to talk about football tonight and not have to talk about helmets being tossed. Our game of the week for high school playoff football will be Streetsboro and Chardon. I'll see you tonight from Solon, just about 7 o'clock tonight. For Jay Crawford, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching After Further Review here on WKYC.com, Facebook Live, and YouTube.